I don't know that you can necessarily prove that. However, I do think that there are some other buildings that have not been done that were in phase one. For example, Jefferson High School, who has a total of something, probably 100 students.
Well, I do think if what you're asking is, are there some things that were going to be done in phase one that have now been put in phase two, I think that is correct. And this legislation would allow the greater efficiency of, in terms of the use of the dollars for those phase two projects. It could include projects originally slated for phase one, which now are on phase two, if that's what you're asking.
But Mr. Riley, don't you think that the taxpayers themselves deserve more than just word of mouth from the school district, given the fact that the school district has not completed those jobs in phase one?
Well,
and I think the answer to the question is any of the money from phase two going to be spent on buildings from phase one of incomplete jobs?
Well, I think what I understand happened is there was cost overruns because of the change orders that you indicated, which did not allow the school district to do those projects in phase one, and they've now put them in phase two. I think they've learned a great deal, not only the district, but the school modernization, the joint board. And in phase two, we put in, as you recall, when we authorized it, a number of additional protections for taxpayers in phase two, and we learned a great deal. At least the school district and the city and the school modernization board learned a great deal, which is why phase two was different in terms of its administrative structure, in terms of its approvals, and even this legislation before us allows us to learn from the inefficiencies of the first phase and to hopefully make greater efficiencies in the second phase.
But I don't know how we could do that without having verified those numbers in the first phase. Is there an independent audit that was ever done that you know of?
I'm sure they'll be audited. I mean, all these dollars are audited.
Phase one, which is now complete, I believe. Is there an independent audit? Was there an independent audit done? Independent audit, no. Not something that was done by...
Yeah, I think there has been an audit, and obviously the state comptroller audits all of these projects in all the districts.
Have you seen that audit? Because I have not. And that's one of the things that bother me is one who represents most of those kids that are in those school buildings. I have never seen those numbers.
Well,
I've asked for them on a number of occasions. And even the president of the school district, the president of the board, has said that he did not know what was going on there.
Well, again, if you're referring to an audit of phase one, I have not read it, so and I don't know that I've seen it. Again, the legislation before the House, though, it relates to the financing structure of phase two. So I just respectfully, really, I don't want to have a debate about phase one. I think the school district has acknowledged ways that they've improved upon this. I think the joint board has done. We reauthorized phase 2 years ago. That is underway, but this will save millions of dollars to allow us to simply extend the maximum cost allowance from a 5-year to a 5-year time span. So I understand you want to have a discussion about phase one again here, but respectfully, that's not the bill before the House.
No, what I want to do is to have a discussion about how it is we can trust the Board of Education on phase two when, in fact, they led us wrong on phase one. And you're telling me that there's not been an audit, so none of us know whether or not those numbers are real.
Well, no,
now we're saying to this House and to the taxpayers of the city, to this state, to the taxpayers of this state, that we ought to trust them on the second phase, and I just don't see it.
Well,
given the fact that the president doesn't know anything about it, and given the fact that most of the school board members don't know anything about it.
Well, in fairness, I didn't say that one wasn't done. I simply said I hadn't seen it. But what I do know with certainty is that if we don't pass this legislation, your concerns that money were wasted in phase one, if I understand you, this guarantees by not passing this that we'll be wasting millions more in phase two, and the school board and the city and the joint facilities board have rightly recognized and asked us in consultation with the state education department to do this to allow a greater efficiency in the use of the monies, allow the dollars to go much further, and allow less disruption for the children in the city schools that are being renovated. And I think, to me, that's a compelling reason to do the bill.
But, Mr. Morelli, the concerns I have is that the same people who, for lack of a better term, excuse me, ladies, screwed up the first phase is now telling us we are going to lose millions of dollars on the second phase, when in fact we have no order or anything else to tell us what really happened in the second phase.
Well,
I don't know if there's money left. I don't know if there's more money needed in phase one, or whether or not we ought to be spending that. All I got is your word, and the same school board and the same person who's chair of the Joint Commission are the ones who are telling us that telling taxpayers that they ought to just willy-nilly give you more money. I just don't understand that.
well, respectfully, the premise of that question I completely disagree with. When you say screwed up, and use your phrase, what I said earlier is that there were change orders necessitated by policy decisions by the school district. I don't want my colleagues to be misled into thinking that money is missing, that projects have resulted in buildings that are subpar. The project did many, many, many good things for the children in the city of Rochester. Modernized schools. There's one, as you noted, just a block or two from your district office, which is magnificent. Were there cost overruns because policy considerations were made to allow for summer learning loss programs that weren't envisioned at the beginning of the construction? Were there other changes necessitated by policy decisions? Yes. But these are dollars that are well worth it, have resulted in modernized schools, modernized buildings for the children in the city of Rochester, who are among the most impoverished in this country. And we want, and I know you share my desire to make sure that these children have the very finest facilities, as do their counterparts in much wealthier suburbs who can afford it. And that's why we've done this modernization program. So I respectfully disagree with the premise. And again, the bill before us would allow phase two, which has a number of safeguards built into it, which is underway, simply to make sure that those dollars go as far as possible and are used to the very best best of our intentions for the kids in the city of Rochester, and has broad support back home in the labor community, in the business community, in the educational community.
You could talk about those individuals, many of who do not live in the city and are not taxpayers in the city. My concern is those who live in our city, who pay the taxes for those particular schools. And my second concern, I wish you could answer it, is there a PLA on this in this part of this bill?
Yes, there is, sir.
Is there a guarantee of WMBEs participating?
Yes, in fact, if I might, because I do have some statistics on that, which I do want to share with the members. And this is, just as you relate to even phase one, for instance, the percentage goal for minorities, male and female, was 20%. The actual realized work hours were 22.93%. Women, non-minority only, the goal was 6.9%. The actual was 7.26%. This is, I think, has been characterized as the most successful MWBE program in the city's history, and we have actually exceeded goals set and established by the city. So I'm by the city school district and by the program. So we're actually, I am particularly proud of the work that has been done. Can there be more? Absolutely. But I expect, and I've been told that on phase two, we will exceed those numbers.
Mr. Morelli, could you tell this body where those numbers came from?
They come from the minority compliance company for phase one, Baker Tilly Virchow Kraus LLP.
But there was no independent audit done on those numbers.
Well, I think they actually are being audited, the numbers.
Pardon?
I think they are being audited. I think they have been audited.
By whom? What independent auditor did the audit?
Yeah, no, I think this is from the audit.
By Beckett, they're the people who did the work. How can we trust those numbers coming from them?
Well, these are, okay, what I would say is, I don't know if they're audited. This is the company that does minority compliance for phase one, the second one, not the first one. And just hang on one second. And as of June 9th, phase one approved legislation was $325 million. To your question earlier, the total contracts to date have been $287 million. Cost of construction date, $230 million. And I have numbers, as I said, minority, 22.93%. Workforce participation, work hours, I can give that in an actual contract value. MBE, 15.68% of total contract work, which exceeds the goal of 15%. WBE was 21.4 million, which is 7.48% of the contracts, exceeds the goal of 5%. So, again, and I don't have anything that contradicts the work of the Minority Compliance Office that has to file reports with the state to make sure that they've, as well as the joint board and the school district. I don't know if you have data that contradicts what the Minority Compliance Officer is required to file with the state. I have not seen anything that contradicts it.
But Mr. Morelli, that's not an independent audit. I don't think taxpayers ought to trust it. You've got Baker Tilly, who's also would be applying for the second phase. What do you expect for them to do coming out of going for second phase? They are the group that's going to be doing the second phase of it.
Did you ask if this is the same Minority Compliance Officer in the second phase?
Yeah.
I don't know that. I believe they are, but I don't know for certain.
Well, that's exactly why I don't trust the numbers, and people should not trust the numbers. Mr. Speaker, this obviously is the same kind of mess that we had for the second phase. We have the same people who are dealing with it. Minority members did not receive. One of the schools is right behind my house, less than 50 yards away from my house. So I could see the people who were going in and out. I know the people who worked on the project. Joe Brown, who was a good friend of mine, who died a short time ago, was there, who quite often who also was a compliance specialist who sat on the joint board, who says that the numbers that we're talking about are not real. That's exactly why I asked the question as to whether or not there were independent audit done. Now, obviously, the letters that we're talking about came from the same friends that we have there already. We have to do something different. That's why I'm very bothered by the fact that there's no independent audit done. I'm bothered by the fact that even though I sponsored the first phase, I was not included anywhere in the second phase. People are concerned whether or not in our neighborhoods the kids are in poverty, and they really are in poverty. I live in the same neighborhood where I grew up at, and I can tell you that they're in poverty. But the fact still remains, as far as I'm concerned, that in order for us to get those people out of poverty, we have to provide the jobs and stuff for them. The numbers are not real. My colleagues ought to know that. WMBs did not receive the kind of money that we have in that letter. The former mayor who ran against the present mayor is the chair of the board. There are people who are giving us numbers who are friends of his. I suggested this body that we ought to have some independent audit was done. And if that's not It was not done in the first phase. How do we trust the numbers for the second phase? I can tell you there are a number of projects there has not been completed. Nobody can give me those numbers. At least I haven't been able to find them, even though I talked to a number of the school board members.
Excuse me, Mr. Gant.
Yes.
I have to go to Mr. Morelli for an announcement.
No, not for an announcement. I
Oh.
just would you yield? I actually have some information I'd like to provide to you.
Sure.
Yeah. So I did check while we were here, the magic of technology. The Baker Tilly is not the minority compliance officer. It actually is the independent auditor. And this has been verified through payroll, certified payroll. So this is actually the final numbers that have been submitted after the verification of payrolls by the independent auditor.
Mr. Miller, I can tell you that those numbers are not real. Many of those schools I went to when the construction work was being done at Franklin High School, being done at School 58 right behind me, over at Jefferson High School where the buildings were not completed. So the numbers that they're giving, I just can't put my teeth in. In fact, in the mayor's letter that you talked about, I'd like to read that letter that you're talking about. As I say, paragraph 3 of that. The city has been informed of an ongoing FBI investigation and Attorney General investigation to phase 1. While the entire scope of either of these investigations has not been revealed, I note that these matters are still under review. More specifically, it is my understanding that the focus of this investigation on the minority and women-owned business contracts and alleged fraud that may have been committed in the completion of the projects. Additionally, concerns have been raised surrounding the training fund. The training fund was where someone was recruited from outside of that neighborhood, and they trained individuals to go to work, and as I said, under PLA, which was an agreement that was made.
Mr. Gant, my apologies, but your time has expired. You're more than welcome to explain your vote if you would like.
Pardon?
Your time has expired, Mr. Gant. You're more than welcome
I'll
to
take
explain.
the second phase.
Mr. Gant, you've had your second.
Huh?
You've had your second. You ran out the clock twice. That's it. Read the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
The clerk will record the vote. Mr. Gant to explain his vote.
Thank you very much for allowing me to explain my vote, and I'll complete reading this from this May 13th letter from the mayor. There are concerns in phase 1 project that were not completed in phase 1 and subsequently pushed into phase 2 because these projects were not properly scoped. We have a responsibility to the taxpayers of this state to make sure that if we're spending $0.4 billion, that we should have the best possible information going. We cannot trust the same people who made mistakes before. The former mayor, for instance, who's also written a letter and got Baker Tilly, and we can't afford to trust that. And therefore, I say to my, particularly my minority members, that we have a responsibility to make sure that the WMBE, that the governor and everybody else talked about, is done and done well, and they must prove those kinds of things just as a fail. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, I will draw my vote, withdraw my request and vote in the negative.
Mr. Gant in the negative. Mr. Bronson to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to abstain for purposes of explaining my vote. This is a project that's very important for the children in the city of Rochester. We all want our children to go to facilities where they're able to be in an environment where they can learn and they can thrive. And having modern facilities with the most recent technology clean facilities, safe facilities, comfortable facilities is very important. The school district, both the school board and the school superintendent are supportive of this project. And they're supportive of it because it is going to be more cost effective in the renovations. It's going to allow the renovations to happen sooner and have more buildings renovated. Instead of comparing phase 2 to phase 1, we should be comparing what happens if we don't do this legislation and what would happen if we do this legislation. So if we do the legislation, 13 schools will be modernized, 10 of them fully renovated, 3 partially. If we don't, only 10 schools will be modernized, 7 fully renovated, 3 partial. The turnaround time, if we do the legislation, 2 years. If we don't do the legislation, and this is important, 6 to 12 years the children will have to wait. If we do the legislation, it'll be 1 relocation to do the modernization. If we don't, then children will have to move 2 times. The cost, if we do the legislation, 87% will go to construction, only 13% to soft costs and administration, etc. If we don't do it, 72%, $315 million will go to construction, and $120 million, 28% will go to administrative costs. It's cost efficient to do this. It's the right things to do for the children. The other issues that have been raised here, we need to deal with those from phase 1. But this is the right thing to do. And thank you, Mr. Speaker. I withdraw my request and vote in the affirmative.
Mr. Bunsen, in the affirmative. Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 103, noes 7.
The bill is passed.
Assembly 9702, Rules Report 354. Mr. Abadi, an act to amend the Retirement and Social Security Law.
An explanation is requested.
Surely. This bill would allow participating employees of the New York State local police and fire retirement system the option to offer a 20-year non-contributory...
1 minute, please. Hold on. We have a sub. On a motion by Mr. Abadi, the Senate bill is before the House. The Senate bill is advanced. Now, Mr. McKevitt.
Yeah, well, basically, let me just finish here. An optional 20-year non-contributory retirement plan for tiers 3, 5, and 6 for police officers and firefighters.
Will the sponsor yield for just a couple of questions, please?
Will you yield, Mr. Abadi?
Surely.
Sponsor yields.
We passed, I think, this identical bill last year by a rather overwhelming number, if I'm correct. Correct?
You are correct.
All right. And the governor vetoed it last year.
No good. Yes. Yes, he did.
We like passing past bills all the time. I like it too. So, the governor did veto it, correct? Yes. Do you know? Can you just explain the reasons why the governor had vetoed the bill last year?
I read his opinions in the thing that it should be negotiated. It's going back on his projections on saving money on tier 6, tier 5 and tier 6. The truth of the matter is, what really happened here was the option was there. Well, not the option. We actually grandfathered people in if they had a collective bargaining contract. There were some places throughout the state that they didn't have a contract at that time. Some areas, I think Buffalo had a control board and all. So they didn't have a contract at that time. And because the way the law was written, they were not covered. Basically, this is for a small number of people we're trying to get back who, just because they didn't have a contract at that time, have been excluded. And if the governor thinks we can save a few dollars that way, I don't think that's the right way to do it.
And this is optional. This is not mandatory in the municipalities. This is an optional program, correct?
Right in there.
Okay.
An option to offer.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Ms. Harris. No problem, Ms. Harris. Read the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
Clerk will record the vote. Mr. Palmisano to explain his vote.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, my colleagues, I know they were getting through the day. Just briefly to explain my vote, while I certainly have as much respect and admiration for our police and fire department as anyone in this chamber, the concern I have relative to this legislation is there is a cost component to this. And I guess I know it's an optional plan, but certainly with the Taylor law and with collective bargaining agreements, there's going to be a lot of undue pressure put on our municipalities to opt into this. And just even from some of the numbers that I've seen, from whether you're looking at a cost to a tier 3 member, let's look at tier 5, 3.4%. This is in year as a percentage of salary, 3.4%, 3.5%, going up to 6.5 and 6.6% respectively. With the property tax cap that a lot of our localities have, it's become very, very difficult. Every cost that we add continues to be a burden for our local municipalities. And while I think we certainly got to do everything we can to make sure we're giving benefits to our police and fire, I think we also need to take into consideration the cost implications that this could have to some of these municipalities who will feel an undue pressure to enter into the system. So for that reason, and that reason only, I'll be voting in the negative.